Thank you for coming, everybody. Good morning, everyone. So, while we are waiting a little bit, Professor Maurizio Tira to join us, we introduce the context of today's discussion. This is the webinar part of TNE IMPACT project, an initiative promoted by with the lead partner of Roma 3 and promoted by Italian National Funding. And the focus is how to strengthen transnational education and fostering meaningful cooperation between higher education institutions across countries in Mediterranean area in particular. One of the key opportunities we are exploring within the project is the development of the joint double degree programs. For this reason, Professor Severini, that we are pleased to be here, is the coordinator for UNITUS, for the University of Tuscia. We decided to organize these 2-day seminars in order to explain more in deep way with the big experience of Professor Tira about the instruments for the academic collaboration, but also how to understand better the powerful tools to enhance the international dimension of the higher education, how to improve students' mobility and build long-term institution partnerships. So within this framework, UNITUS, as a coordinator of Work Package 2, has developed also dedicated questionnaire aimed at collecting insights, experiences, and expectations from the universities and stakeholders, partner and associated partner. The goal is to better understand the current practices, identifying challenges, and support the design of more effective and sustainable joint education pathways. Yesterday, Professor Tira explained also the strategy of the cooperation at international level. So will be very interesting also receive I don't know if you can raise your hand. In particular, we can open the microphone if someone want to explain or ask directly by microphone, if you prefer. If no, I don't know if Simone want to say something about the yesterday time, or yes, some insightful information about the activity, yes, under the Windows undergoing. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Giorgio. Thank you. And thank you very much to all the attendants. Yes, yesterday we have a very broad, very interesting analysis of the environment in which European universities are working. Now, in this, at the end of the seminars, there were some questions a bit more practical about how to pursue some internationalization goals, especially in terms of attracting students from other EU countries, as well as how to overcome some issues that are we face when try to cooperate with universities from other countries. I think it's very important in this section that you raise question, especially our colleague within the network of the TNE IMPACT project from North Africa, or other colleagues from the Italian University of this project. So my suggestion is please ask a question to Professor Tira. Also, let's say relatively practical question based on your experience. For example, the issue of, I mean, difficulties, complexity of developing double degree agreements because of the many differences between the systems. I would be very happy if you raise question by writing on the chat your question, and we, especially with Dr. Giorgio Scavino, we can pose the question to Professor Tira. Because I think it's important to try to take advantage of the experience of Professor Tira, the practical experience also as rector, and so the practical experience. So please share with us some questions, also to make the discussion a bit more alive. I think we will go. We are waiting for Professor Tira, who is traveling, unfortunately, so maybe he's facing some issue, and I'm trying to contact him. Yes, okay, we got the message. 5 minutes, so we have still
Okay.
minutes to go. Could you start writing some question we can pose based on your experience? Okay. For example, one issue yesterday was on the issue of how it's complex sometimes to accommodate foreign students, incoming students, because of the differences in culture, because of of course, differences in terms of income and ability to face the maybe higher cost of living when in mobility, and also intercultural issues that are also quite important because our society are somehow different. And so sometimes it's not easy to accommodate differences in terms of culture, attitude, and so on. I also hope that this paved the way for fostering some additional activities in the area of especially double degree agreements. So I encourage our colleague from North Africa to contact us, myself and Giorgio Scavino, to explore possibility for double degree agreement. We have quite a long history, some experience on this, and we'll be happy to do so. I also want to share the idea that we will have the final meeting of our project will be held the 11th of May 11, in Rome, nearby Rome. And in this occasion, we showcase some cases, including, for example, a couple of experience we had. One is a summer school we had together with other colleagues, including students from Morocco and students from Egypt, that we held in Viterbo last summer. It was quite successful, so successful that at the end of the summer school, we decided to write a proposal for an Erasmus Mundus, which is a joint program. And so we developed this project, and we are waiting for, finger crossed, a positive answer to make this objective possible. The other experience is a double degree we developed with a university in Egypt named Galala University in Egypt. And we are very much happy of this agreement, and we are waiting for the students in the next year from Egyptian students coming in Viterbo. So please, we are very much, contact us. We are very much happy to explore these opportunities.
Thank you again, Simone. While we are waiting, Professor Tira, I took yesterday some notes, and I would like to repeat some very important consideration I heard yesterday, because the current research, Professor Tira highlighted that joint and double degrees programs go beyond the traditional mobility schemes, such as Erasmus exchanges, by embedding internationalization directly into the curriculum structure. So according to leading scholars like yes, the different programs represent more advanced opportunity for transnational education because they involve deep institution cooperation, including co-design curricula, shared quality assurance mechanisms, and mutual recognition of learning outcomes. From a student perspective, the added value lies in acquiring intercultural competencies, multiple academic perspectives, and enhanced employability, as graduated hold qualifications recognized in more than one country. Very interesting also the opportunity to talk with Professor Tira about the European certifications and the differences with the labels. Literature also underlines key challenges, so differences in national regulations, accreditation system, different accreditation systems. Obviously, the administrative complexity, as underlined by Professor Severini before, and sustainability over time. Yes, perfectly.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear
Good
me?
morning, Maurizio.
Yes, absolutely correct.
So I apologize for being late. I had some problem in this connection. Good. So do you want us to start from questions as Professor Scavino was making before?
Yeah, yes, only one question at the moment. What does current research say about the real added value of joint and double degree programs compared to the traditional international mobility schemes?
Yes, I try to show, I use a slide for this. Apologize, moment. Okay, so advanced. So these are according to the blueprint for European degree that I presented yesterday. This is a sort of a list of added value of the joint European degree. Some of them are quite evident, maybe some others are not so much. So contribute to Europe's competitiveness by equipping graduates with future-proof skills to master the transition. This, of course, is related to the programs rather than this instrument. Provide a strong symbol of our common European identity and a strong sense of European belonging. Then students will have more opportunities to study at various universities in different EU countries and to graduate with one universally recognized diploma. This is what I said yesterday. So rather than a double degree, if you get a joint European degree, it doesn't matter where you study, which university you study, and then you get you graduate with one recognized diploma all over Europe. And this is the final goal. In the alliances, they are trying to do that among the countries of the alliance. But the main advantage, the main benefit will be that in any university you study in Europe, you will get a diploma that is recognized. So this will be greater than the agreement that we make with another university. So it is not just joined with another university, but recognized by the European Commission. So valuable at not by the European Commission, recognized by all the European systems, educational systems, and so valid all over Europe. That's the final goal. Then other benefit also for the institutions. So the higher education institution will make it simpler to set up a joint program, because if you have this frame of the joint degree, you can set up whatever joint program you want with other universities without other barriers. For the employers, they can recruit highly skilled, qualified graduates ready to face the challenges of a rapidly changing world, because they have been educated in an international system. For the European Commission, national authorities, higher education sector, it will foster collaboration using inside recommendations. So this is some of the possible benefit of a joint degree that is recognized by all countries. as I said yesterday, the road toward the joint European degree should be the pilot project of the European alliances that set up systems recognized by a certain number of countries, and then these pilot projects can be opened up to all universities, taking into consideration that there must be agreement between the member countries. The other news is that, as I said yesterday, they are thinking about new legal entities that are releasing these degrees. So this is maybe one of the most complicated content of the roadmap, because we are legal entities as universities, and we should establish another legal entities that releases these degrees. So in other words, on one side, I think this is the idea, the scenario. Universities will continue to issue degrees that are valid only in their own institutions, and with another legal entity made together with other universities, they will release joint degree that are available all over the European Union. But there are many problems to overtake. I show you in the six pilot project that the university alliances have set up. They have mapped the existing barriers for creation joint program and joint degrees, and especially in the EdAFISH. This is EdAFISH European degree label. You can download the report. This is just the summary. They have identified some 50 barriers to be tackled. So it's really quite complicated. For example, to sum up in the three main cluster of barriers, the accreditation and quality assurance systems, as we know, is something that every country has established by law. So the accreditation of the courses and the quality assurance systems, these are two processes that have diverse timelines, procedure, and so on, even if the agencies are grouped in ECAR, but the systems are pretty different. The second block of problems and barriers is the program structures with lack of flexibility. I already said something yesterday. We should have more flexibility according to the many rules related to the duration of programs, credit exchange, grading scales. That we use different system for grading scales, diploma templates, mandatory use of languages, restriction of mobility, format of final exam. All these issues have to be tackled, because they are not to be taken for granted. We have a lot of differences. So, and the third block of the barriers are related to the governance structure, with diversity of requirements for consortium agreements. In my alliance, for example, Portugal, the two Portuguese universities, they are autonomous, but from a legal point of view, they cannot take a decision without the approval of the ministry. So this is a legal barrier in the governance structure of that country. And then the last block of barriers is about student admission and enrollment, with the restriction of selection and enrollment of students. It is not in Europe 27, but in the reform of Georgia's university system, the government for the public universities is fixing the number of students they can have. So in the quality assurance system, the link between the resources of university and the number of students that they can enroll is fixed by the agency. So this is something that we do not have in Italy. We are struggling for having more students in that system. For example, the government says, look, if your budget is this, if the number of professors is that, if the forecast for the number of professor growth is this, you cannot have more than a given number of students, which is not the case in other systems. So these are the four main clusters. But if you look at the just the summary of the project Ada Fish that was just run for identifying the obstacles for transnational collaboration in higher education, you see a list quite long, you see. So accreditation, I already said, restrictive national legislation for the possibility to create an interdisciplinary degree, restrictive national legislation regarding the necessary components of the graduation diploma and the joint diploma and graduation rules, final exam, percentage of foreign teachers in the degree program. Another example, in UK, now they have a fixed number of international students in the universities. And so this is something that we do not have. You know, there are so many points to be tackled. Continuing with the summary, the but it's something that I already said is a little more split in items. But for example, differences in academic years. I'm an engineer, and you know, in France, the engineering education is not made by under the control of the Ministry of University, but every engineering school is depending on the Ministry of University and the related ministry. For example, École Nationale Pont Chaussée, that is one of most famous school of civil engineering in France. It depends also from the Ministry of Infrastructure. And if I'm not mistaken, their program is 4 years plus 1. So they are a little bit out of the system of other universities in France, for example, or the School of Mining Engineers depend on the Ministry for Mining and Industry. So there are many points. This is continuing the list of Ada Fish problem that I identified. As you see, there are quite so many. Tuition fees, for example, is another problem. Even in Italy, we want to cooperate, make a double degree with a private university, apply public and the private, they apply different tuition fees. So you have to find an agreement how you share the tuition fees in these courses. So it's not evident, it's not so easy to cooperate among public and private. Language proficiency validation. What level of language knowledge we ask. In our university, we have our rules using maybe minimum level of knowledge of English, B1 for assessing university, usually 3 credits for acquiring the basic knowledge of English. But for example, there are some universities that call for an English validation, an English proficiency higher, for example, B2 for master degrees. And some other university will apply the same rules for international students. Other university like mine do not apply any validation of your knowledge of English if you come and attend a course in English. Some universities are teaching Italian, other are not. So there are many. Some are little, some are big problems in this path. So you could argue that it would be nearly impossible to get to this joint degree. I think this is a work, of course, in progress, and the result of this 6 pilot project that they created among the alliances can give us a picture of the problem that we have to overcome. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Professor Maurizio Tira. Absolutely. Also, the other question is related if there are an existing model or framework that can help simplify the administrative procedures of joint and double degree programs.
Well, there are the prerequisite of asked from the European Commission for this joint European degree, but I won't say we get to this. You can look at the result of this project, EDAFISH, and also the other that I mentioned here. You see on the right, this FOCI, EdLab, SMART, all these projects addressed the problems related to the path toward the joint European degree. I have also other slides that I didn't show yesterday where I started to show. You see, this is what has been done so far, getting to the Commission report of final outcomes. We in the European University Association, we also produce a report about the financial sustainability of this cooperation. So how would it be possible to continue to cooperate between universities after the financing of the European University Alliance may finish? I go to, sorry, where are they? Yeah, here. You see here other information about the joint degree, and you see on the right that these degrees are meant for AQF 678. 6 is the bachelor, 7 is the master, 8 is the PhD program, and again, you see what are the steps that we should follow to get to the joint European degree. So now we have already experiences of degrees released by at least 2 universities in different member states. That's something we have. We need to have a jointly design and jointly delivered by all the higher education institutions. We have to have a diploma supplement issued to students. We have to have a SCTS user guide and so on, the quality assurance. I'm sorry, I'm repeating a little bit the things that I already said, but I mean, we are quite well aware of what is what are the bottlenecks we have to overcome. But we are working on that. As I said, some alliances are a little bit more advanced in creating the legal entity. In my opinion, the most tricky problem is to create a legal entity that issues these joint degrees among some universities, because the university, they have to enter in another foundation, let's say, can be, or in group of interest at European level, according to the European legislation. That is sometimes something, a barrier. Someone may ask, why should I do that effort also? That's why, of course, you ask for the benefit. So there are for sure some benefits. I'm convinced. And the main one is the benefit of releasing something that can be a factor of attraction, very strong effect, condition for attraction to universities, especially the medium and small university in so many EU countries. But one may say, but what's best, pros or contras? So is it needed this for our university? I think, as I said yesterday, there's some of the reform we have to make to get to that point are anyway important, like flexibility, for example, interdisciplinarity, for example. So we have to reflect anyway on our systems and ask ourselves if it is worth value for money, because we have to invest money on that. Yes, Simone asked in the chat, the one issue is the level of student fees very different. And that's something that I said now. it is true. It is true, as I said, also in cooperating within one country with different tuition fees applied by private university, for example. It's quite a strong barrier. You are right. There are some examples where they compensate the taxation among the two. If you want, a proxy of this is what we did for the national PhD programs, where we compensated a little bit the money. We put the money in a box, and then we took out the scholarships. So that can be systems, but of course it is difficult. We know that several European countries in the public university, they are free from any charge. So students do not pay. And of course, those universities may argue, why should we enter in a system where then we have to ask for tuition fees? So yes, you're right. This is a problem. I don't have an answer. This is one of the long list of bottlenecks that I show you. Anyway, these slides are in the presentation I sent you yesterday, so you can go through. Maybe we can continue with the question, or I jump to my question then, and I give you some other hints. But if there are other questions online, that would be great. There is one. Yes, are there any joint programs with Latin American universities? If not, are you planning on develop them? According to my knowledge, yes, there are joint programs with Latin American universities. And also I am planning to develop one in my university, because I visited the Universidad Nacional de Ingeniería in Lima, Peru, 20 days ago. And we are thinking about developing a joint program with that university. So my answer is yes, there are. I know that someone asked yesterday to tell about the experience of my university. In my university, we have one in Latin America about especially focus on the faculty of law. Because, you know, in some countries, for example, there is quite a strong interest in the legislative system that we apply in Italy, especially that is based on the Roman juridical system. Even China is interested in this approach. So yes, there are programs, and yes, I am planning to develop one right in the next month with the Universidad Nacional de Ingeniería in Lima, Peru. So the Erasmus Plus support is crucial for these projects, European degree pathway projects, enabling EU countries together with their accreditation and quality assurance agency, university, and so on, and European degree design measures to enable higher education to adapt existing joint programs to create new ones leading to European degree. This is something that could be done in transforming. And you see the road towards a possible European degree that was designed by the European Commission is quite ambitious. I said yesterday that maybe can be longer the process, but they have designed this roadmap. So we are more or less placed in the adoption of the European degree criteria that they're there. And in the next years, we have member states to implement the label. That is the first step. You remember, I told you yesterday, review the national system, which is all but easy. End of 25 is passed, and 26 degree forum, but there was a European degree forum in Brussels with sharing of experiences. The launch of Erasmus Plus goal to support European degree pathway projects in European degree exploration action. Then in 27, the Commission tables a proposals for a council recommendation. So let's see if it will sort out in 27, and mainstreaming of the European degree across all members 2030. I think this is a little bit ambitious, and then you see the European degree mainstream all over Europe is maybe not fixed as a deadline. 2030, I think, is quite too ambitious. But they give you another information. The European Commission is discussing about the ERA, the European Research Act. You know that the Commission has competence on research, and so they are designing the first act on research. So far, we have strategies. And the European Research Act, according to what they told me, and the G level, they are including an article in the European Research Act that would enable the mobility of students in Europe. And through that article, there is a draft of the ERA, is not yet discussed. It is discussed, it is not decided, not approved. It is under discussion. In the ERA Act, there should be a way to facilitate the mobility that means the creation of the joint degrees. But I can update you in the next month, because we have just this information about the process. We as EUA reacted on the ERA European Research Act proposal. And if you are interested, you can download in the EUA website what was our reaction to the ERA Act proposal that is going to be approved by the end of 26. And that could, they told me that could be a legislation, an act that could help in a way that is not yet so clear, the creation of the joint degree by fostering mobility. Because another problem is related, of course, to the mutual recognition and so mobility of students. This is something that I already told you. So I have something else, if you like, but I'm looking forward for other questions if you have questions. Otherwise, if they're not to lose time, I can continue a little bit and then maybe trying myself to raise questions through what I'm going to tell you now. So I go back, if you don't mind, to the question that I was starting to tell you about yesterday, and I have some. I added to the slides where we send you the final version of the slide, some other information. For example, so leaving for a moment aside this point of the joint degree, as also Professor Severini asked me to enlarge a little bit the perspective outside Europe or the European higher education area, indeed. That was the area I was talking about so far. There are other problems that maybe we can see from the perspective of Europe, but as I said, there are other factors that we have to take into consideration when we think about international cooperation. Now, leaving aside a little bit the joint degree, but there are other issues. For example, how to deal with the international crisis. How can work the science and knowledge diplomacy? These two things are related. If you think it's too far away from our interest, I would argue that in the last month or maybe a couple of years, the main problems many rectors have been facing were related to international crisis. You know that, for example, for the Palestine, we had in many universities this protest of students, and I don't want to judge any sort of position, nor from the leadership, nor from the students. But what is clear is that the university are involved in this geopolitical crisis. Willing or not willing, we have this situation that comes in our university. So the students ask loud voice for us to take a position facing this situation. And we took clearer position on the invasion, full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Probably you remember that this was due to the fact that the number of Russian reactors, I think 150, 160, something like that, immediately after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 22, they wrote a letter in supporting the policy of the Russian presidency. And because of that, we interrupted with a decision taken also by our Minister of University, any relation with the Russian and Belarus universities, only keeping alive the presence of students, but forbidding any sort of money transfer to Russian and Belarus universities. Even on ongoing projects where there used to be a financing for those universities, we were not allowed anymore to release money to those institutions. And we faced some criticism because, you know, the cooperation with Russian universities especially was very high in many cases, but the decision was taken both a university level, a university system, Ministry of University, and indeed at the governmental level. So in that crisis of Ukraine, the position was, I would say, quite clear, even if we had to face some problems. Now the situation is that Ukraine is worried about all professors and students that went abroad to study, and the policy of Ministry of University in Ukraine is to do their best to call back students and professors. There are many Ukrainian universities that are asking their professor to come back to Ukraine, and if they do not within a given time, they will be fired from the university. So they do their best to get professor back, and we can understand, because otherwise, how can their university go back to the system before the war? I had a meeting with the Ukrainian Rectors Conference 1 month ago, and their situation is quite critical, but they are continuing making their activities. They do teaching online, of course, mainly online, for what is clearly evident, the reason why. They have a lot of problems with energy supply. So indeed, during our meeting, the electricity went off. So for 15 minutes, they were in complete darkness, just with the light of their smartphones. So it's something that we cannot imagine how they continue to provide teaching and research in this difficult situation. That was Kyiv, of course. Not all Ukraine is in the same situation, but that international crisis touch us. We are not neutral in the situation of Ukraine. A different attitude we recorded in the Israel-Palestine conflict. You know, that was really a critical point. Many rectors were criticized for not taking a clear statement against Israeli universities, where we have a lot of collaborations. The difference may be, if I may, that we didn't have any proof of Israeli universities openly supporting the policy of their prime minister. So maybe they do, maybe they don't, but that was slightly different for the situation of Ukraine. This is one reason, but the other reason that is maybe even more important is that Israel and Palestine are out of the European higher education area. So in Europe and the European higher education area, we did not take any official position. Even in the European University Association, we have this procedure that when the conflict is out of the European higher education area, we do not make statements, but single rectors conference did on the situation of Israel and Palestine. One of the problems raised by the Israel-Palestine conflict is the dual use problem. If I may, I can spend a few words about this, but please, Simone, tell me whenever you want me to stop or slow down or whatever. In you know that in the discussion of Horizon, the next Horizon project, and the Horizon is for the member countries, but also there are many agreements with other countries, including Israel. So for the funding of Horizon, a discussion is the dual use technologies. And about the dual use technologies, I quote you the Manuel Hayter report. I can show you everything on slides, but Manuel Hayter used to be a Minister of Education in Portugal, and he wrote one of the four reports that in European Union we are now referring. The Draghi that I mentioned yesterday, the Letta report about the fifth freedom, another report from a guy from Finland that I hardly remember the surname because it's too complicated to me, and the Manuel Hayter report about the research and dual use. It was issued by a group with experts from different countries, but he was the chair. So the dual use topic is quite important in the international cooperation, not just regarding Europe, because as I said, the Horizon Agreement involved other countries, but also because it touches, I think, all over the world where there are crises. What is a dual use? Again, if you want to see the position of EUA, you can download our statement about dual use. We were very prudent in this respect because we know that the discussion for Horizon, the next Horizon project, is very much influenced by the new defense policy of the European Commission. So it seems that the amount of money will be 170 billion euros or 175 billion euros for the next Horizon project, but a part of it will clearly be devoted to defense or at least dual use researches. In the Manuel Hayter report, there is a statement that I do not fully agree with, and I discussed personally with him about it, that he and the Commission state in the report that every sort of research is potentially dual use. This can be true because it is true that probably any result of a research can be used either for civil or military purpose. But in the report, you can read a sentence which I really do not like, that even the research in the healthcare system is dual use because if you improve the health condition of soldiers, they can fight better. So if you look at this, everything is really dual use. But I think that we have to support a difference between, for example, the research in life sciences and the healthcare systems that is mainly based for the health of people. So the medical research is for the health of people, and the health is a value in itself, not because instrumentally then you can fight in a good health. So it is a little bit stress this fact of dual use. So with EUA, we asked for not denying that it is difficult to find a clear distinction between what is dual use and what is not dual use. But anyway, there should be the money and the majority of money of the next Horizon program devoted to research that are not necessarily meant for developing a military use of that. So this is something that also we have to take care, because when our students in Italy, for example, but not just in Italy, I know that it happened in many countries, they were protesting against Israel. One of the reasons is the Italian university should stop any cooperation with Israeli university if there are researches in the field of dual use, and especially in dual use. So this is a very delicate topic. First, again, what is the limit, the difference, the distinction between dual use and non-dual use? And secondly, what is the position of university in the research that are clearly meant for defense and military? You know, I come, as you asked me about my university. My university is placed in one of the towns in Italy where we have a lot of weapons factories. Some of them are quite famous all over the world. Just remember you Beretta guns. Beretta guns are well known, at least for the American movies, but there is hardly an American movie with gangsters or shooting where you don't find, or police with a Beretta gun. So in my university, it's quite delicate to see the distinction between the research in military, clearly military activities with clearly military purposes, and research that are simply dual use, especially for mechanical engineers, electronical engineers. So this is quite an issue. Why I mention it this? Because this has to do with the second point of my list here, with the diplomacy, the science diplomacy. We as university are part of the diplomacy of a country. So we are not maybe taking decisions straight for the policy of the government, of course, but what we do very much felt as a public decision, especially if it touches public university. If a public university uses public money, public funding for this sort of research, there is a question, an ethical question. You know that most university have an ethical chart for trying to address this topic. While I'm speaking, I see there is a question from in the chat. So many universities in Italy are beneficiaries of European University fundings. It's not easy to move to concrete actions. Which one are the more successful actions to put in place to take advantage of this opportunity to prove concrete cooperation among universities? Well, goes back again to the European University initiatives. Okay, I try to answer. So the most successful actions are those that are experimenting the joint programs and joint degrees. The less successful, in my opinion, are those that are addressing the research, because the research cooperation is a given. So we are cooperating in research since, I would say, the beginning of the university history, and the cooperation in research is made on the base of subject. So consortia that are created to apply to an Horizon call, for example, are made with your peers, with the colleagues that work on similar subjects, given as part of interdisciplinarity. The fact that the alliances are trying to make research together is involving universities that decided to create an alliance, mainly not on the base of having a common research interest, but with other flagships. For example, my alliance is an alliance of medium-sized cities and towns hosting a university and placed in a mountain area. So it is called in Latin Universitas Montium, so the University of the Mountains. So the common feature of the 12 universities that we are in my alliance is being placed in those particular areas, being placed in medium-sized cities and towns, and then it derived the selection and of the university. But in my subject, I have very few colleagues working in these universities. So I just won a live project with another consortium. So I think that the most successful actions are those that are working on the teaching side. This is my opinion. You can also not agree, and if not, you can also reply in the chat or take the floor. But this is my opinion. They were not created for research. We were able to do research together. No need to have the alliances. And, and when I say teaching, I say, of course, the final goal of joint degree, but also to get to that point, the micro-credential, the recognition of diplomas, the label, and other initiatives, for example, in the language. Again, another feature that was at the base of the decision of making the alliance where I am, about my university, you see my back, University of Brescia, is that all university speak, are placed in countries where a Latin origin language is spoken. So Portugal, Spain, France, Romania, and Italy. We only have affiliate to Ukrainian university that speak completely different languages, but they are affiliated because, as you know, they cannot be full member of the alliance. And other alliances, are based on university that are placed in capital cities. So another size and maybe another importance of those universities. Another alliance where I'm working, it's called Europe, a New European Bauhaus. They are based on the idea of revitalizing the idea of the European Bauhaus, that for those who doesn't know, was a very interesting initiative taken in Germany, in Weimar. Weimar is a little town with a university. In the beginning of last century, and it was suppressed by the Nazi Reich. So it was a very interesting school of architecture and design, the Bauhaus. And there is a European project. Again, if you want, you can Google, you will see there is new European Bauhaus as a strategy at European level. It's quite interesting. You can apply to be member. And the alliance where I am involved in the advisory board took the name. So an alliance for EU for Bauhaus, European Bauhaus. They focus on this idea. So they group university where they have faculty of architecture, design, and engineering, civil engineering, to cooperate, especially on that issue. Bauhaus means the house of construction. So how to learn about building and designing. This is my opinion. The best successful action are these improve the teaching. In my, again, sorry, the finish, in my alliance, we set up also, and that could be of interest for non-Europeans, we set up since the beginning a network of international universities called Gemini that is not made of European university, but is made on purpose of other universities that are placed in other continents, also speaking same languages of Latin origin. So we made an agreement with the Rectors Conference in Canada for French-speaking universities. Sorry, not in Canada, in Quebec, sorry, for the French-speaking universities. We made an agreement with some other universities in Latin America, speaking Spanish, and agreement also with Timor-Leste and the Philippines, that because they also speak not originally, but because of colonialism, Latin origin languages. So there is also this experience in my alliance of having a network that is not financed by the Commission because they cannot receive money, but they work with us. And this is just because of what I said yesterday and today, because if we get to the joint degree, we want immediately to propose them to be part of it, to be linked to make joint degrees, as in the previous question, with this, for example, university in Latin America, but where the joint is not joint my university with Lima University, but the joint degree with the Lima degree. So that will be the strength, I think, of the alliance. I don't know if I answered the question in the chat. I hope so.
Grazie.
So I go on. Sorry, I close the window because I'm freezing. Just one moment. Excuse me. So I continue with my questions, waiting for yours. As I said, the international cooperation. I don't know if you are aware that based in the National Rector Conference in Italy, there is a group of delegates specially devoted to international cooperation. So not internationalization in itself, but especially the cooperation with the less economically developed countries. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is financing some project in this network. So the cooperation outside Europe and the higher education area of Europe is something that is put forward by the universities, mainly in the field of cooperation in research or applying best available solutions, technologies for less economically developed countries. So also this is something that in the cooperation I think is quite relevant. Maybe some of you are directly involved, I don't know, but it is something that when I was rector, I wanted that really this network of delegate, that is a sort of sub-network of the delegate for internationalization, can be supported by the National Rectors Conference, because our cooperation with the less economically developed countries is something that involves many colleagues in many researches. In my university, we have a research center, namely for that. So I go on with the question, and I go to yesterday we spoke already the balance between local and global international role. I want to stress a little bit the problem of language. So English and beyond. For sure, we will continue to speak English because the attraction of foreign students is highly based on English taught courses, and the number of courses taught in English is increasing. You know, in some countries there are, I would say, in some countries it's 100% of master degrees that are taught in English. I mean, non-English speaking countries, of course. Also, in some non-European countries, there are a lot of programs developed in English. But it is true that there is a reflection we can make about the use of English and other languages. Probably in the next future, the problem of translation, thanks to improving artificial intelligence, will be a minor problem, because we will be able probably to have possibilities to easily translate texts and also talks and speeches directly using AI. It is still already possible indeed. But the point is, shall we invest money on other languages? That's the point. Shall the university invest money on formation and education on other languages? I mean, teaching the languages and teaching using other languages that are do different things. I mean, teaching languages means you teach the language, and not all universities have the means and professors to do that, or teaching using other languages, which is something that can be possible indeed, even if it's not so so common. In my alliance, again, because you asked me, in my alliance, we decided it is a minor thing, but to exchange our emails using our native language. But so far, we include also the English translation to be sure that colleagues will understand. But the idea is by the end of the alliance, if there will be an end, to exchange emails only using our languages. But as I said, they are all of Latin origin, so maybe it's slightly easier to understand each other if you have an alliance with other languages that are of complete different origin, like Swedish or Ugro-Finnic language, probably is much more difficult. But behind the language, there is a project. So we invested in English taught courses because we want to attract. That's clear. But I am convinced that the problem is not only the language we speak, but the contents of the courses we teach. I teach urban planning in English since 15 years, but I cannot teach urban planning in English as I teach the same subject in Italian, because what the contents of a course speaking about planning for an international audience should not address, for example, mainly the Italian legislation, because I had a student from Bhutan 1 year. How can she be interested in the Italian legislation about urban planning? No interest at all. So we have to change the programs. This is something that, as I said yesterday, when we speak about joining forces, joining diplomas, and so on, we have to speak also on the contents of what we are teaching. So is it good that I teach planning without teaching the Italian legislation in an Italian university? I decided to do that because there are some basic elements of the subject that can be relevant in any latitude. So I decided to teach those elements that to me are more important than the legislation, because the legislation you can maybe implement during your professional career. But the basic fundament of the discipline, you have to, I would say, understand while you are studying. So behind the language, there is a choice in the content, and this affects many subjects, maybe not all of them, maybe mathematics, physics, chemistry, you can teach the same contents, not depending on the language. But for many other disciplines where the national legislative systems are highly involved, you have to select the contents. I saw that someone raised the hand, but I cannot see anymore, I don't know why, all the participants. So if the one that raised the hand can take the floor, thank you, because I don't see who he or she is. Or maybe I misunderstood. Do you see, Simone, someone that raised his hand or her hand?
Unfortunately, no, I cannot see the chat. I believe Giorgio can do so.
Yes, no, it was a trial because participants can raise their hand if they want to also add something. Thank you.
So if you see a hand, please tell me. I will interrupt because I don't see a participant.
Maurizio, I see that you are still in the same slide. I don't know if you want to change it or...
In the same slide, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, with the slide with open questions, one.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I'm still there because I'm at point language knowledge, English and beyond.
Yeah, so perfect. No, I got it. But just in case, I mean, to be sure that.
So I finished with this, but I think it's a very good point to reflect upon. So teaching in an international context means revising the contents of what we teach. And that's not at all easy, because many disciplines have a lot of content that are nation related. think about law. If you teach law, of course, you have to teach mainly of the legislation of your country. But anyway, we have, as I said, a cooperation with Latin America because they are developing the law based on the Roman law. And so if you take the basics of the legislation system, maybe you can have some content that are important for an audience where people come from very different countries. But this is something that many colleagues do not want to do, or they strongly object. They say, we are teaching in Italy, and so we have to teach what is needed in Italy to be professional. I think that's a good point, but I would ask to those of my age, what do you remember most of what when you were a student? And I do not remember most an article of the law that passed because it was a law of 30 years ago. But I do remember the methodology that I learned when I was a student. So I think we have to stress the importance of methodology. And so we have to revise our content. But it's all but easy. It's much easier to translate in English with artificial intelligence a slide than to change the content. And I want to stress this because international cooperation is not just a matter of the office. Yesterday and today, probably there are many people working in the office for international students. It's not just a matter of the international student office, but it is a matter of the learning and teaching office as well. So how do we build the contents, our council for the courses that we have? Yes, Simone.
I fully agree. I don't know if I can interrupt you.
Yeah, of course.
I fully agree. The big challenge we face in this internationalization process is, let's say, to sell the ideas to our colleagues. That's the most challenging stuff in terms of, as you say, changing, the way or the content of the teaching. Because, I mean, there is a strange, wrong incentive for many of us, which is, we are very much research focused and we like a lot of research. We look for funding all the time. While teaching, it's a bit not very much, let's say, remunerated, in this context, unfortunately. So we face the issue of how to change teaching. I have to say that somehow this kind of cooperation may push you to do so, especially if you have joint program, but it's still hard. I mean, to find people willing to support practically this kind of initiative. And sometimes you feel that this is a bit too much top-down approach, my personal experience.
Yes. So I invite you to make this reflection when you go towards internationalization, towards joint degree, joint programs. You have to look very carefully of what are the contents that you teach, and the course in international settings and the courses in a national setting, they should have different programs. And that's not easy because we are the same professors, maybe many cases, and we have to have two set of slides to our students, which is something that asks for, I would say also some incentives, maybe sometimes could be important. I remember when my university first developed these courses in English, we were incentivized slightly because, the incentives in public university are very low, but a little bit incentivized to prepare for the first 2 years new programs in the English taught courses. And that's something that I think is very important, really very important. I would say one of the most important key points, because I spoke so far of so many bureaucratic obstacles to cooperation, to a joint degree, but we should also talk about the contents because it's not just the bureaucratic problems, but what will be the preparation of someone that will get a joint European degree. It will prepare on what? Something very vague or a kind of every sort of differences between the countries in the same course, which is not possible, a comparative a course that compares different systems. I repeat, not for all subjects is a problem. If I may quote another little problem, in some practical courses, for example, the medical schools, the language is a barrier, not just for lessons, but when you have to make your training. If you train yourself, as it is compulsory for medical doctors, as you know, in a hospital, when you go to a hospital and you train, you will have to interact with other stakeholders, the patients, for that probably they won't speak English. So we host in my university students coming from Palestine for a training of 1 month in summer, but we have a problem of a linguistic mediation, because when they approach to a patient in his bed or her bed in the hospital, and they want to interact, because that's the training of a medical doctor, they cannot use the language in the English language, because people that are in the hospital, they're not requested to know English to be healed. So there are, as you know, English courses in medical faculties, but one of the point is during the training, you need to have linguistic or cultural mediators, because they have to translate if you want to understand something in their training. So training in some subjects is also something that we have to be very careful. If we want to do that, we have to take care about translation. And this is something that is maybe even more difficult because you have to involve other subjects. I want to, yesterday I already opened a little bit the point of IOSC and Quara. I want just to mention, while I'm waiting anyway for question if it's the case, and I put a slide about IOSC. I'm sure you have heard about IOSC, so the European Open Science Cloud. The European Open Science Cloud is an initiative of the EU's research and digital agendas. Again, sorry for the non-Europeans, I'm speaking about Europe, but the problem of open science is something that touches all countries in the world, on the planet. And there are several dimensions on open science cloud. One is what is the source and the kind of data that we want to share. And the other one is what is the platform that we want to use to share this data. So the quality of data is an issue. For example, in life science surveys, in medical studies, you know, some data have to be protected. They are protected by privacy legislation, very strict privacy legislation in every country. So what can you share in that case? Of course, they have to be anonymous, but that's happening in many other disciplines. I have made in my career many studies about road safety and road accidents. So the data of accidents have to be protected. So you have to analyze anonymous data. So when you share data, you have to look at the sort of data that you're going to share. A second point of the quality of data is if we make research that are financed by industries, for example, and that is often the case, you know, I would say everywhere in the world, we receive money to make some applied research. And when we make applied research, you know that we are forced to an agreement with the industry that the result of the research would not be public, because industries are competing among themselves. So we can only use usually for publications when they are when we have an open acceptance by the industry that provides the money. So the sort of data we can share is an issue, and this is one of the discussion. And the other side is what's the platform you use to share data. So do we use the Google or Microsoft systems where most of universities, at least in Italy, but I don't think only in Italy, are using. And so that means that sovereignty about this data is in the hands of these big players, or do we develop an open science cloud at European level? And this is what EOSC is doing. EOSC is structured with a governing body at European level, but with representative in every country. For the Italians, if you are interested, now the reference institution for our Ministry of University is the Hypercomputing and Quantum Computing Foundation, that is one of the 5 national research centers created by the Next Generation EU funds. You know, the Next Generation EU funds created 15 15 partenariati, I don't know in English, partnership, 5 national centers and some ecosystems and others. So the 5 research centers, one of them led by the National Institute for Nuclear Physics, is on hypercomputing and quantum computing. And they are the Italian institution that is the linking institution between the Ministry of University in Italy and EOSC. So if you are interested, you can also ask me, because I'm a member of that council, and so I can provide you information. We are working in Italy with some university to experiment a self-managed cloud for storing data. We are going to approve a convention with some university. Within them there is University of Bologna, for example, to try to build up a system. We have the technology, of course, but the problem is that we have to, again, convince our colleagues to leave Google Drive that we all use and to move data on another platform. And this is all but easy, because we know all our systems are linked. So in the Google, if you are Google, you can Google and you can be identified everywhere using your Google email, or Microsoft same. But the problem of sovereignty of data is a huge problem, because the autonomy of research and also the financial dimension of this problem is a very big problem. That the services that were for free in the past will be very expensive in the future, because these big companies have linked us in the use of depending on their systems, and now getting rid of them is quite difficult. But I invite you to follow EOSC. The other one was about the ranking. I want to spend some words about this and inform you, and you can of course get better information on the website about COARA. You know what COARA is? The Coalition of Advancing Research Assessment. It is an organization committed to reform the methods and processes by which researchers and research organizations are evaluated. It exists since few years. There are Italian representatives in COARA. For a long time, the actual rector of Piemonte Orientale University was member of COARA. And in COARA, there are several research groups, working groups that work on different topics. But as I said, the main focus is which methodology we choose to assess the research processes. You know, we have our systems in Italy for granting, for giving money to research proposals. How do we evaluate researchers? And, you know, this is a long story. We could spend hours discussing on this. I feel that probably many of us are not fully satisfied on how researchers are evaluated nowadays, because the publish and perish, mood where we are has led many young researchers to just publish for the sake of publishing, because it is true that in competition, the high age index and the number of publication is so much evaluated. But we are losing the preparation in teaching, and we do not evaluate seriously, I would say, the teaching skills. And we spoke so far yesterday and today about teaching, about joint degrees. And so teaching skills are fundamental, but you are not evaluated according to your teaching skill. The only evaluation is, in Italy at least, the one given by students. But the students evaluate you in a way that is at least tricky, sometimes too generous, and sometimes too strict, or sometimes unpolite. It is a proxy, so I think we have to look carefully on the evaluation of students, but the evaluation of students maybe won't help professors to improve very much their teaching skills. So in several universities, there are programs of reskilling and upskilling the teachers, called Teach the Teachers to Teach, playing on the 3T. And this is something that is becoming relevant, because if the publish or perish will continue like that, we will have a lot of publication that won't be really an advance in knowledge, because there are many colleagues that state that when you publish a couple of good articles per year, you can be quite a good researcher if the articles are good, innovative. But if you publish many because you want to have citations, and the system of citation is a little bit mutual, no? You cite me and I cite you, and things like that. So Quora is working also on this. And last but not least, how the research organizations are evaluated. So the quality assurance systems that we have and the rankings. These are open problems, because how do we evaluate a university? We have been evaluated. I was rector when I received the evaluation team, and there can be many things we can improve in the evaluation. Just to give you an example, if I may, in Georgia, that is a little country of 3.6 million inhabitants in the higher education area, but not in the EU27, it is compulsory that the chair of the evaluation committee for their university is a foreign professor. So it cannot be Georgian. All the others are Georgian. I had the chance to make one of these evaluations 1.5 years ago. And I can tell you that small university with only 2,000 students, they translated from Georgian in English all the documents that we also have to produce for the evaluation. So we sometimes speak about having international cooperation also when we have to be evaluated. You remember also in the VQR or in other system, having the foreign, or in commission, having a foreign colleague. But indeed, this small country with a language that is really impossible to understand, I mean, to me, because Georgian language is not so well spread, even the characters are different, but they did the job of translating everything. When they say everything, it means the statute, the budget, the programs of the courses, all the codes, the rules they have at university. A huge and expensive job they did, but maybe they are less advanced in other things. Now that, as I said, there is a reform ongoing that has a lot of problems, but they, by law, have to have a foreign professor chairing their evaluation committee. I think that's a proof of efficiency that in many other countries is not in place. And also the effort that they are putting on this evaluation process, and it is made. It also in Italy is made seriously, let's say, but not with that effort of providing some documents to such a broad audience being translated into English. And we in Italy we have the same problem. If we ask to a foreign colleague, it's difficult, you will understand Italian. But the other point of the evaluation are the rankings. As I said yesterday, rankings are tricky because first of all, there are several, and every ranking has different indicators. Secondly, there are some indicators that are not appropriated to the European system of education because it is different from, for example, the United States system. So different from point of view of budget. One university, at least before Trump, one single of university in US probably received the same amount of money that all the public university receive as a whole in Italy. So how can you compete with this sort of resources? How can you attract professors when you have strict rules in competition and you cannot contract openly and privately with some professors? So would it be possible to have an European ranking system? This is something that the group in Quara is working on, just to maybe better evaluate the value of the European universities. The only thing that I really say from the bottom of my heart, if either you believe or not in rankings, be very prudent. One day you go up and the other day you go down. So when you go up, you are very happy. But what do you say when you go down? So we have to look at rankings as far as they are a way to improve what we're doing. For example, if there is a bad ratio between staff members and students or professors, that's a good point. If there is a bad ratio of in gender balance, that's a good point. But on other topics, sometimes we have to be prudent because they change. But even more important, do not follow those who ask money to improve your rankings. There are people going around in university offering consultancy on how to improve your rank. And magically, after you sign this contract, this is very impolite to say, but I have to say, after you sign the contract, magically you you scale up some position in the rankings. So is that fair? Is that transparent? There are some tricky points. So let's look to rankings and also to the evaluation as a mean to improve what we are doing, to do it better. That's the real goal, even of our National Quality Assurance Agency, is to improve. But in many cases, universities are comparing among themselves to say, I'm better than the other one. And this is not fair because you can be maybe better in that case, in that evaluation, but the quality is highly based on the quality of single professors or single member of the staff as well, and on the infrastructure that you provide. So let's look at the real things and not the branding that is something that we have to leave to commerce. I have, as I said, another 4 minutes. If there are other questions, I apologize if I did not provide all the things you wanted to hear from me. And if there is something that you want to discuss further, you can send me, of course, email whenever you want. I have here show you here my email. I think you can see also in the Zoom. But if there are just a couple of last questions, and then I will close. Simone, what do you think? I don't hear you anymore.
Okay, yes, we are.
Okay. So if there are just the last question, I can answer in 3
Yes, I don't
minutes.
know if Giorgio, you have access to the chat.
Yes, at the moment there are no other questions emerged today. So many thanks for all the contributions, reflections in particular, the positive attitude for our universities, our partnership in the TNE IMPACT project. So very important occasion. Yeah.
Yes, so Maurizio, if as agree, we will share your presentation.
Of course,
and also
I will send you this version of today. This is
always
slightly
change.
different.
Perfect.
Yeah, just I add some slides, and I
Okay,
send you
yes, and we
immediately.
will before sharing, we will transform in PDF, and then we will share, as well as the registration, at least as material to be shared as and then we will have a final meeting in May 11, the final meeting of the project, and of course we will report about this activity. If this is okay with you, we would like also to receive some, feedback, some question that maybe, if you are available, we can share with you to support also possible activities. But will be an addendum of this seminar.
Yes, of course. No, I will be more than happy to do that. So if collect questions, or if you want some documents that you don't find online, maybe I said on the website of EUA, you have all the documents of EUA there for free, not just for members. And then if you Google in the European Commission, you find almost everything. But in case you don't find something, please feel free to send me an email. And I will.
Thank you very much, Maurizio. It was very much appreciated. I had some feedback also from the staff here. Very happy. And so thank you very much, and hope to see you soon around.
Thank you. Thank you to you. Please continue in this direction of internationalization. Thank you very much. Have a nice time. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Nice time.